Hi everybody, welcome to the Manifold channel. Let's take a look at how the setting of scale limits has changed in Manifold System Release 9. It's become a lot easier than it used to be before because now you can set both minimum and maximum scale at the same time in the same dialog. We're looking at Release 9 and everything that you see here works in the free Manifold viewer as well. We're looking at a map of Mexico that has many layers to it. Let's see, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 layers. And what scale limits do is they automatically turn layers on and off as you zoom in and out of the display, and you can set scale limits in the layers pane. Where else would it be? So let's take a look at the layers pane here, and it's set up as it is by default, showing the opacity of each layer. You can change the opacity to say make the opacity of Mexico less than 100%, and to change the minimum maximum scale limits, we now click on show minimum max scale, and that'll show you how this particular map has been arranged. In some of the layers, for example Bing Streets, and for the Mexico, there aren't any scale limits. That means they're always on. So as you zoom in and zoom out, the layers don't change, don't turn on and off. We're going to change some of that right now, and let's take a look at how we might change this display. For example, if you zoom in to that zoom box right there, all of a sudden certain things will show up that weren't there before. For example, the roads. The roads, if you look here, will turn on at any zoom level greater than 1 to 3 million. And looking down here at the zoom layer, we can see zoom level. We can see that it's a 1 to 2.9 million. So that's less than 3 million. So the roads will turn on at that stage. And as we zoom slightly out, let's click one, click out. The roads disappear because it's now a zoom level 1.369 million. And let's go back to the original starting view that we had here. Great. And how do we change these? How do we set this? For example, let's say we don't want Mexico to hang around as we zoom all the way in. We'd like Mexico to turn off at some level. And let's say as we zoom further out, and I'll zoom out here, zoom out. We'd also like Mexico to turn out at some point because we don't really want to see it, beyond a certain level, where we're going to use the Bing Street Maps. And you can see, by the way, here how the Bing satellite turns off after a certain layer. In fact, the Bing satellite is active all the way up to 1 to 25 million. So let's say Mexico turns off when Bing satellite turns off as well. So let's double click into any, and that gives us the minimum scale and the maximum scale. And what we can do is we can either enter a scale value here like 25 million, or if we like, we can pick it from any of the scales that have already been set. So it's very convenient when you want to synchronize how layers turn on and off at the same time, be able to pick from a choice list that has all that. So let's choose 1 to 25 million. So Mexico will turn off when it gets up to 1 to 25 million, and it'll turn on. It'll turn off, and it'll also turn off when it gets below a minimum scale. And what's the minimum scale that we might want to see? Well, let's turn it off when roads turn on, which is 1 to 3 million. So let's look here, and there's our choice there. So now the Mexico layer will turn on at 1 to 3 million. That's the minimum scale, and it'll turn off at the maximum scale, 1 to 25 million. Let's click OK, and you can see how that's reported. That's 3 million to 25 million. So now as we zoom farther in, let's click in. So now that's 1 to 7.3 million. That's 1 to 3.6 million. And now it turns off because that's now 1.184 million. So the Mexico layer turns off. Okay, let's zoom back out. As we zoom back out, it falls into that range between 3 million and 25 million. So it's still on. And as we zoom farther out, as we get past the 1 to 25 million zoom level, the Mexico layer, which is this layer right there, turns back off. Let's zoom back in, and you can see as what happens is we turn the Mexico layer off. So this allows us to automatically control the display to turn on different features on and off as we go. Now we can also use it to synchronize some features. So for example, you can see the Bing satellite layer here turns on at up to and stays on at up to 1 to 25 million. The minimum scale is not set, so it's always on in terms of minimum scales, but when it gets up to maximum scale to 1 to 25 million, it turns off. Okay, that's great, but we also see here that the Bing Streets layer is always turned on, even when the Bing Streets layer is covered by the Bing satellite layer. You can see how that Bing satellite layer turns on. So if I zoom in way far in here, you can see that from that blue line, the Bing Streets layer is updated, even though it's covered by the Bing satellite layer, and that's not something that we want. We don't need that. So let's set the Bing Streets layer so the Bing Streets layer turns off at any zoom level below 1 to 25 million. And to do that, that means the minimum scale, we're going to set the minimum scale, so where it turns off, where the big satellite hits the maximum scale. And we can conveniently choose 125 million here, which is set in the choice list. Click OK. And now what happens is that as the Bing satellite layer turns off, the Bing streets layer turns on. Let's click zoom out and out farther, and now it's only the Bing streets layer is turned on. And now as we zoom back in, as the Bing satellite layer kicks in, the Bing streets layer is turned on. And you can see as we zoom farther in here, there's a little blue blip. The little blue underline shows the Bing satellite layer is pulling tiles in from Microsoft, but the Bing streets layer isn't because it's not turned on. So let's click in. Again, you can see how that works. See that blue line on Bing satellite, but not on Bing streets. So that's a more efficient way of organizing a map. If you're generating a map like this for people to use. So we've done that. Okay, what else are we going to do? Let's see what else we can do. We can zoom farther in, all the way in farther, and let's click in, and you can see the various layers are kicking in, and we're at the 1.18 million, 1 to 3. Here's the 1 to 3 million layer. So the roads have not yet turned on. The places have turned on. So you can see the places labels, which are turned on 3 million, and the roads layers turn. The places layers turns on at 4 million. The places labels turn into 3 million. Where we go? We go a little bit farther. Let's make the places turn on at 1 to 3 million also. So let's change that maximum scale to 3 million. So we're going to get all this as synchronized as we can, and the roads are going to turn on as well at that stage. So let's go. Let's zoom out, and now I'll zoom back in, and you can see how these little labels here for the places have turned on along with the places. The capitals are what we were looking at earlier, where we zoomed farther out, like these big guys right here. Those are capitals, and those turn on at 1 to 9 million. And if we like, we can set up the capitals so that the capitals turn off at 3 million. So if we zoom in now around Ciudad Victoria, you can see that the capitals have turned on. The labels are still turned on because they're still good until 6 million. And we go farther and farther in. So you can play all day long with all this stuff, but what's convenient about the new system is that when you double click on any one of these settings to change it, you can set the minimum scale and the maximum scale at the same time. And it's synchronized so that the layers always turn off exactly at the maximum layer, and they turn on exactly when you get just slightly past that. So when you have a situation like here where the Bing satellite layer turns off at the same time the Bing streets layer turns on, let's zoom out a bit. Let's actually zoom to exactly 1 to 25 million. I'm going to set that here. 25, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that's exactly where the Bing satellite layer turns off. So if I zoom in just the slightest amount by drawing a zoom box here to 1 to 24,760,000, you can see that the satellite layer has turned on and the Bing streets layers has turned off. So these are manifolds deliberately set up that way so that when you set up these corresponding layer settings, they automatically synchronize. Anyway, that's how you do turn on layers on and off. And what we see here, by the way, in the dialog here, the render scale level is something else that's which we'll cover in a different video. And if you're wondering about some of these virtual layers that have appeared up here, if you haven't been working with recent builds of Manifold, you can see that to turn on the north arrow, just click that. To change how the north arrow is specified, you double click in here and you can choose whatever north arrows you want and the various settings that are available to you. So that's all pretty cool. And that too will be covering in a different video. There's also scale bars, which likewise you can choose the style that you want. And let's leave that north arrow turned on. I hope you've enjoyed this quick video and you can see how easy it is to use minimum and maximum scales. It's convenient to have that choice list that's built in so you don't have to constantly keep retyping the same scale level if you've chosen the scale level. You can see how you can use this scale readout at the bottom of the at the status bar as kind of a guide to how you're setting scales to when things will turn on and off and what makes sense and what does not make sense. You can see how all that plays and all that works together. I hope you've enjoyed this quick video. Tell your friends, and goodbye from Manifold Land. Well, that was fun. If you want to see more, visit us at www.manifold.net. As always, Manifold delivers the world's most advanced, highest quality spatial products for GIS and DBMS at a low price that you can afford. Once again, that's manifold.net. See you soon.